Welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where today we bring you the best comebacks in football history. 10. Tottenham 3, Manchester United 5. We begin at White Hart Lane, where Tottenham were given a second-half hiding by Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United in 2001. Spurs must have been pinching themselves when they went into the half-time break 3-0 up against a team who had just won a third consecutive Premier League title. And their dream quickly turned into a nightmare as the Red Devils hit 5 goals in the second half to well and truly batter the North Londoners. Christian Seeger had rounded off the scoring for Tottenham in the first period, but United replied instantly after coming out of the dressing room as Andy Cole set off a second-half scoring spree with a sumptuous header. More goals followed and Juan Sebastian Veron scored the winner just half an hour later. David Beckham then rubbed salt into the wounds with a 5th late on. Ferguson was so confident playing the Lily Whites that some halftime team talks were said to have consisted of just 3 words: "Lads, it's Tottenham." Maybe this was one of those occasions. 9. Real Madrid 3, Odense 4. On to the European stage now, and a night that Real Madrid fans have tried ever so hard to block from their memory. The ever-confident Los Blancos must have thought they were in for a field day when they were drawn against Danish minnows Odense in the UEFA Cup last 16 back in 1994. But Destribeda gave United a run for their money in the first leg and actually opened the scoring before going down 3-2 to the Spanish giants in Denmark. Despite this respectable effort, it was almost certain Odense would be no match for their opponents at the Santiago Bernabeu. Madrid were top of La Liga at the time and contained talents such as Fernando Hierro, Michael Laudrup and Raúl, while Odense had never reached this stage of a European competition before. The tie was considered such a shoo-in for the hosts that only 30,000 fans turned up to the stadium. But somehow the Danes managed to keep Madrid out for the entire match and even managed to go 1-0 up in the 71st minute. Los Blancos were hanging on, safe in the knowledge that they still had an away goals advantage, but they were destroyed by a stoppage time winner from substitute Morten Bisgaard. It remains the only time that Real have lost a European tie after winning the first leg away. Absolutely insane. 8. Man City 2, Gillingham 2. We all know about Man City's dramatic final day victory against QPR in 2012, so we're taking you back to the game where it all began. Believe it or not, less than 10 years before their big money takeover, the Sky Blues were battling it out in League One, and just 4 days after their red neighbours' famous victory over Bayern Munich in the '99 Champions League final, they came up against Gillingham in a dramatic playoff finale at Wembley. Amazingly, the scoreline remained goalless until the final 10 minutes, and when Gillingham then scored 2 in 7 minutes, they must have thought they were home and dry. How wrong they were. Like United days before, City had their own fun in stoppage time as goals from Kevin Horlock and Paul Dickov brought the game level. It eventually came down to penalties, and Nicky Weaver was the hero as the citizens won the shootout 3-1. Gillingham, managed by Tony Pulis, would gain promotion the next season, but have since dropped back to the 3rd tier. Man City, meanwhile, have never looked back since that day. 7. Middlesbrough 4, Basel 3 and Middlesbrough 4, Steaua Bucharest 3. Up to Teesside now and Middlesbrough's heroic UEFA Cup run in 2006. We may remember him as the Wally with the brolly, but before Steve McClaren made a tit of himself with England, he had transformed Boro into a solid Premier League team. And he gave the fans some treasured European nights in his final season. Coming up against Basel in the UEFA Cup quarter-final, Boro were left with a mountain to climb after succumbing to a 2-0 away defeat. And things got even worse as they conceded early in the second leg at home, meaning that they had to score 4 goals to go through. Impossible, surely. But Mark Viduka scored before and after half-time to give McLaren's men hope, and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank got the side's third with a screamer with 10 minutes to go. By the end of the game, Boro had 4 strikers on the field, and it paid off as super sub Massimo Maccarone scored the winner in stoppage time. In the semi-final, they were handed a similar uphill task, losing the first leg 1-0 at Steaua Bucharest and then going down 2-0 at home. Maccarone was once again the hero, though, coming on for the injured Gareth Southgate in the first half, opening the scoring for Boro and then finishing another ludicrous comeback by netting the side's 4th, once again in stoppage time, to send them through to the final. 6. Liverpool 5, Borussia Dortmund 4. Now this wouldn't be a list of comebacks without Liverpool in Europe. We've spoken about it enough over the years, so we're leaving Istanbul out of this. But Anfield experienced its own classic evening in 2016. The Reds were drawn against Borussia Dortmund in the Europa League quarter-finals, setting up a mouth-watering encounter between Jurgen Klopp and his former club. The first leg ended 1-1 at the Westfalenstadion, giving Liverpool a solid result and an away goal going into the return game. But their dreams were shattered after just 9 minutes at Anfield as Henrik Mkhitaryan and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang put Die Borussen 2-0 up, meaning Liverpool had to score 3 to go through. Divock Origi pulled one back after half-time, giving the Kop faithful a glimmer of hope, but they were soon taken apart again with a lovely finish from Marco Reus. On most nights this would have been considered the final nail in the coffin, but Liverpool had other ideas. In the final 25 minutes, goals from Felipe Coutinho and Mamadou Sakho brought the tie level, and with Dortmund still set to go through on away goals, Dejan Lovren popped up in stoppage time to head the Merseysiders into the semi-finals, sending Anfield into a frenzy. 5. Tottenham 3, Man City 4. Sorry Spurs fans, but we're returning to White Hart Lane for yet another home embarrassment. As for Man City, it seems they've quietly made a tradition of staging dramatic comebacks. Rewind to 2004 and the FA Cup 4th round replay, where the two sides battled it out for a 5th round tie with Man United. Ledley King put Tottenham ahead after just 2 minutes with a peach of a goal, and once again it was Christian Seeger who put the hosts 3-0 up on the stroke of half-time with a stunning free kick. Needless to say, Spurs were feeling pretty relaxed about the second half. But they obviously had short memories, as City dealt them much the same punishment as United had 3 years earlier. Sylvain Distin pulled one back after half-time, and following another Seeger free kick being stopped brilliantly by City's standing keeper Arni Arason, they scored 2 more, with Sean Wright-Phillips pulling them level with 10 minutes to go. In stoppage time, John Macken headed the winner for the Sky Blues, rounding off an extraordinary 45-minute turnaround. Not only that, but perennial troublemaker Joey Barton had been sent off at half-time, meaning City did it all with just 10 men. Absolutely ridiculous. 4. VfL Bochum 5, Bayern Munich 6. We head over to Germany now, and one of the craziest games in Bundesliga history. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and Uli Hoeneß now sit on top of the Bayern Munich hierarchy, and in the 1970s were two of the club's key players. In 1976, they took part in one of the club's most famous and most dramatic domestic victories as they visited relegation candidates Bochum. They were in for a shock though, as Bochum trounced them 3-0 in the first half. They then inflicted even more pain on Bayern by adding another after the break. At 4-0 after 53 minutes, surely there was no way back for the Bavarian Giants. But that's where you're wrong. Bayern scored 5 goals in 20 minutes, including strikes from Rummenigge and Gerd Müller, and Uli Hoeneß got the 5th to put them in the lead with 15 minutes to go. But where most small clubs would have crumbled, Bochum refused to give up, and they equalised 5 minutes later. But Bayern weren't finished either, and Hoeneß proved the club's class with a late strike to kill off the Northwest club's fight. 6-5 in 90 minutes. You don't see that too often. 3. Blackpool 4, Bolton Wanderers 3. 1953 was a big year. We had the Queen's coronation, the first men to climb Mount Everest, and also what is possibly the greatest FA Cup final ever. Blackpool went into the final at Wembley as favourites, having finished above Bolton in the league and possessing the masterful talent of Stanley Matthews. Matthews, aged 38 at the time, was desperate to get his hands on the trophy, having lost 2 finals previously. But his side were left baffled as Bolton went 3-1 up, partly down to some shoddy goalkeeping from Blackpool keeper George Farm. Just as all looked lost, the Seasiders got some luck of their own, as Matthews' looping cross was fumbled by Bolton keeper Stan Hansen, and Stan Mortensen pounced to make it 3-2. Mortensen then rifled in a free kick in the 89th minute, completing his hat-trick and levelling the tie, but the best was yet to come. In stoppage time, just as the game looked set for a draw, Matthews went on a mazy run into the box and squared it to Bill Perry, who slotted home a dramatic winner. Cue pandemonium in the stands as Blackpool snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. It later became known as the Matthews Final due to the great contribution he made to Blackpool's comeback, and it was the only major trophy of the legendary winger's career. 2. Barcelona 6, Paris Saint-Germain 5. Back to the 21st century and a Champions League tie that went down as an all-time classic. Barcelona went to Paris in February 2017 for a last 16 match they were more than capable of winning. But with the likes of Luis Suarez and Lionel Messi off the boil, Barca were torn apart by a ruthless PSG side. Adrian Rabiot, Marco Verratti and Angel Di Maria ran rings around the Blaugrana and finished the match 4-0 victors. After an embarrassment like that, everyone's money was on Paris to go through. Not only had Barca been awful in the first leg, they also had to do what no other team had ever done in the Champions League and win the tie, having lost the first leg by 4. Luis Enrique's team went 2-0 up before half-time in the second leg, giving them a small bit of hope. Messi then added one from the spot after the break, putting PSG under real pressure to get that all-important away goal. And it came in the 62nd minute as Edinson Cavani rifled in and crushed Barca's dreams. Or he thought he had, at least, with the Catalans all but dead and buried. Neymar curled in an audacious free kick with 2 minutes of normal time to spare. But even the most devout Barcelona fan must have been doubting they could do it. However, they were then controversially given a second penalty in stoppage time, which the Brazilian wizard put away calmly. By now, tension levels were boiling over in the Camp Nou, and Neymar had one more trick up his sleeve, beating his man and chipping the ball in for Sergi Roberto to score with 30 seconds to spare. With 3 goals in the final 7 minutes, Barcelona's crazy turnaround against PSG had many declaring it the greatest comeback in European football history. 1. Metz 6, Barcelona 5. But we found one that arguably beats it. Many of you won't remember the Cup Winners' Cup, but back in the day it was quite a big deal in European football. So when French minnows Metz came up against Barcelona in the first round in 1984, everyone expected the Catalans to give them a good hiding. And to begin with, they were right. Metz fell down 4-2 at home in the first leg and did not look like coming back. Barca's Bernd Schuster was feeling so cocky after the game that he offered to give the Metz players some ham to thank them for all the presents they've given to us tonight. What a dick. And with the club also having lost recent league games 6-0 and 7-0, the French media was so dismissive of their chances at the Camp Nou that they didn't even bother to send any TV or radio stations to cover the return leg. They're probably still kicking themselves about that to this day. As Metz staged a remarkable comeback in Catalonia after initially going behind 5-2 on aggregate. Their Yugoslavian striker Zvonko Kurbos pulled one back against the odds, and by halftime they were 2-1 up on the night. But they still needed to score 2 and not concede against Spain's hottest team at the time. Mission accepted. Kurbos took it round the keeper to score another early in the second half before completing his hat-trick and the club's comeback with just 3 minutes to spare. After the game, Metz keeper Michel Ettore goaded Schuster, cheekily asking him, "Where's your ham now?" Comebacks don't come sweeter than this. So there you go, our top 10 comebacks, but who would you have included? Oh, Istanbul. Yeah, alright mate, we get it, but put it in the comments below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out Football Mundial, our new strand in which we take a look at football outside Europe, me and Chris Hamill. And as ever guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.